people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. A very disgruntled Chantel Cameron voiced her discomfort, knowing that she would not be facing Katie Taylor for a third time by saying, the belts were grabbed off of me, and then she's run. I don't want to leave it like that. It will annoy me for the rest of my career. She can't be running away with them 140-pound belts. Somehow, I'm going to track her down, and I'm going to fight again for my belts.
Now, reigning WBO welterweight champion Sandy Ryan caught wind of Chantel Cameron's complaints.
More or less responded to them via X, which gave rise to a heated back and forth between them. Sandy said, are you finished moaning and crying yet, Chantel Cameron? If so, give Eddie Hearn a call and I'll give you a shot at my world title. Or is it true that he's dropped you? To which Chantel Cameron responded, Sandy, shut the fuck up, you social media whore. Keep that energy when you see me in real life, because you always shit your pants. If you really want beef, why don't you ring me and keep off socials, you fool? To which Sandy responded, you ain't ever approached me in real life, you little bitch, and you will know deep down I'm about it. To which Chantel Cameron responded, about what? You're a little pussy, Sandy. Stop. Giving it the biggin on social media, you're about nothing, and stop trying to act ghetto. You're from the countryside, dickhead. Now get fucked, you insecure little prick.
Ouch.
Chantel continued, and also, if you want to continue this, then call my phone, as I don't do Twitter wars. Bit more mature than that, to which Sandy responded, nothing to talk about. Let's go get paid and let me punch you up. Whenever you're ready to fight, Chantel, sounds like you have a lot on your chest at the minute, so hit Eddie Hearn and BPP boxing up. Chantel responded by saying, the girl's a weirdo, insecure little bitch. Types nonsense on the internet but drops her head when she sees me. All for attention. She's trying to act like a hard girl. Sandy the stalker, been obsessed since GB days. Slightly worrying at this point.
This is not the first back and forth exchange that Sandy and Chantel have had. Something like a year, maybe two.
They had a similar back and forth exchange like this something like 2 years ago. They've never liked each other, Sandy and Chantel. What's interesting is Sandy claims that Eddie Hearn dropped Chantel Cameron.
Is that true?
I'm not sure. I don't know what the dichotomy of Chantel's relationship with Eddie Hearn is. The most I can say is I don't imagine they have the same rapport that Eddie has with Katie Taylor.
But does that mean he dropped her?
I don't know. It seems to me that up until MVP and the people over there at Netflix came to Katie with that offer, with all that money, Katie was en route to fight Chantel for a third time. It seemed very much like that's what she was going to do up until that happened.
But that's not Eddie Hearn's fault.
The Matchroom's fault. Neither Eddie Hearn or Matchroom can force Katie Taylor to reject a sizable offer from Netflix to fight Amanda for a second time. They can't make her fight Chantel. Chantel can't put that on them.
It just is what it is.
Eddie Hearn and Matchroom can hardly be blamed for a decision that Katie makes. Katie's a grown woman, and if she decides she'd rather fight Amanda Serrano for way more money than she'd get fighting Chantel, then that's just what she decides. The saving grace is that she could always fight Sandy Ryan. She could always settle affairs with Sandy. It's an opportunity to fight for a world title in a fight that has a profile. Sandy's buzzing right now. The demolition job she just did on Terry Harper, it's gotten her some attention, and we all know there's backstory there. There's backstory there between Sandy and Chantel.
Make the fight.
Assuming that Chantel Cameron is still with Matchroom, I don't see why they shouldn't. Sandy's not otherwise preoccupied with anything. The other champions, they're busy. Jessica McCaskill's fighting Lauren Price. Natasha Jonas is fighting Michaela Mayer again.
Ivana Habazin is fighting Kinga Magyar.
There are no belts available for Chantel to win at 135 or 140, but she could always challenge Sandy for hers at 147. Why not?
It's an open invitation.
Now, if she took it, who would win that fight?
It's a good question.
Sandy is bigger and younger, and stronger. I think stronger, that Sandy has more single punching power than Chantel Cameron. And don't misunderstand me, Chantel can punch. She can punch, and she is strong in her own right. But I think Sandy's a little stronger.
Right.
But Chantel is more well-traveled, more seasoned, far more experienced than Sandy Ryan. And at this point, Chantel has seen more fighters like Sandy than Sandy has seen fighters like Chantel. Chantel's got a high boxing acumen. I've watched her career in its entirety up until this point, and I can wholeheartedly say she's a lot more malleable than Sandy Ryan, more adaptable.
Oh, because Sandy's an aggressive fighter, a hard puncher. So was Jessica McCaskill. So was Mary McGee.
Sandy's durable, Sandy's tough. So was Anaís de Sanchez.
So was Katie Taylor.
All boils down to what do you like? What do you like? Do you like the size and strength of Sandy Ryan or the ring IQ of Chantel Cameron? Because she plays the aggressor and the defender equally well.
She's adaptable.
Currently, Chantel Cameron's been helping Lauren Price prepare for that aforementioned Jessica McCaskill fight, and I see no reason why they shouldn't be able to make a fight between her and Sandy unless somebody doesn't want it.
With so many of Matchroom's fighters all tied up in Saudi, so many fights happening on the Saudis' dime and not Matchroom, that creates a cash surplus.
Think about it. The money that would have went to a Joshua fighter, would have went to a Bivol fight, a Jai Opataya fight, a Craig Spider Richards fight, Raymond Ford, just all these guys that are tied up in Saudi. The Saudis are the ones paying them. It's not coming out of Matchroom's annual budget. Thus, you can pull some of that money over into making a Sandy Ryan versus Chantel Cameron fight.
Make the fight.
I don't want to seem like an instigator, but let's be honest. Everybody enjoyed that back and forth exchange between Sandy and Chantel, and the only thing better than that would be a fight between them.
Domestic rivals, the Brits love a domestic grudge match.
I do too. You think this is about the WBO title? You think this is about Sandy's belt? It's not about Sandy's belt.
You'll see what it's about if you make the fight.
Men's light heavyweight news, Mauricio Sulaiman now refuses to talk politics after U-turn to allow Bivol to challenge Beterbiev for the WBC title.
I told you they would soften their stance.
The WBC has had a close relationship with Ukraine over the years, supporting Vitaly Klitschko through his heavyweight championship career and hosting their annual convention in Kiev in 2018 after Russia invaded Ukraine in February of 2022, 2 years ago, and Russia faced international sanctions. Sulaiman declared that the WBC would not support a fight involving WBA champion Dmitry Bivol, or really any Russian fighter. That is because of our position with Russia, Sulaiman had said. The WBC would not accept that fight. Sulaiman was asked in London at Monday's press conference what it changed for Bivol to now be able to fight for their title.
Money.
You know it's money. We all do. I told you from the very beginning, back when this fight was difficult to make and the money wasn't there yet, that get the Saudis involved,
watch
all that oil money,
watch
and watch how fast Mauricio Sulaiman stops playing the ideologist. Sulaiman was asked in London at Monday's press conference what it changed for Bivol to now have the opportunity to take part in a unification fight and challenge for the WBC, WBO, and IBF champion Beterbiev. I'm not going to talk about anything other than boxing, Sulaiman told Boxing Scene. That was a boxing question.
It was.
I'm just happy and proud to be part of this fight. It's a fight the world wants to see, a fight the world demands, a fight that both fighters deserve, and the winner will be the undisputed champion.
Yeah, but you were standing in the way of that before. What changed?
That Saudi money came in. That's what changed. Moreover, the people in Saudi, they want this to be for all the marbles. They want this to be for all the belts, for undisputed.
You didn't.
Does this mean the WBC will be sanctioning fights in Russia now, moving forwards? Not at this moment, Sulaiman said. We are in the whole pro-peace, not only Russia and Ukraine, but the whole world, leading in a delicate time. Has the WBC president spoken to Bivol since he made his initial stance? Yes. I spoke to him in Riyadh last year. We had a very nice conversation, replied Sulaiman. Did they talk global affairs and about what had happened? not politics, Sulaiman said. He's a fighter. He's a human being. He's a father.
He was already all those things when you decided he shouldn't be allowed to fight for your belt.
He was already a fighter. He was already a human being and a father when you decided Russian fighters should not be allowed to fight for the World Boxing Council's belt. So, what changed?
He doesn't want to make it obvious.
We had a good conversation with his promoter, Vadim Kornilov, and I'm just happy for him and Artur Beterbiev. So now, will the WBC definitely be on the line in Saudi Arabia? Mauricio responded, absolutely. Sulaiman admitted he was excited for the fight, which has been on the wish list of boxing fans for several years. I'm very, very excited. This is a new era of boxing, Sulaiman continued.
With the same old parasites.
Same bloodsuckers up to their same old tricks. I knew that Mauricio Sulaiman's political ideologies were for sale, like so many WBC trinket title replicas on the WBC's website.
So is his altruism.
His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh has come in a massive way with his innovative plans, and he's making a big, real challenge for the betterment of the sport. This is a sensational, great fight. We'll see which style prevails, the technique of Bivol or the power and aggressiveness of Beterbiev. It's going to be a sensational night, and yet...
You almost stopped this from happening.
You almost did, until the Saudis got involved the way I said they would get involved, and you came off of that hardline stance the way I said you would.
Why?
Because you're nowhere as idealistic as you let on. When he initially said that they were not going to allow any Russian and or Belarusian fighter fight for a WBC title of any kind, I knew he only took that stance because he could afford to. They don't rely on Russian or Belarusian fighters for the bulk of their cash anyway.
So it's a sacrifice you can afford to make, if you even want to call it that.
Well, like in your home, like in my house, in our business, everything, the way of making things, Don King and Bob Arum were arch rivals. But wherever there was a fight to be made sense financially, attractive, they were the best of friends, Sulaiman said. Money is a big factor. Fighters fight for money, and to have the means to make these big fights, I believe it's a great example to have rival promoters compete in the ring with their best talent and then move on.
Like you've moved on from that hardline stance?
I'm not complaining, because I'd be even more aggravated if the WBC held to that hardline stance and this fight were made, but it weren't for Undisputed.
I'd be more angry about that.
I'm glad he's come off of that hardline stance, but I can't help but marvel at how Mauricio Sulaiman flaps around like a fish with impunity.
You're not feeling political anymore?
You don't want to take a stance based on current events that don't involve you like you did 2 years ago or however long it's been?
No?
Well, that's all right. Let's be honest. Nobody was expecting any semblance of accountability from Mauricio or the World Boxing Council anyway. This is all what I expected, what I predicted.
Whatever they're paying Dimitri and whatever they're paying Artur.
The World Boxing Council was not going to stand on principle while there are hefty sanctioning fees to be charged for an undisputed title fight worth this much money in Saudi Arabia. No, no, no.
Of course not.
You only stand on principle if it doesn't cost you anything, but if it does and you're leaving money on the table...
They would never.
So here we are. You could set your watch by these guys. Now, as it pertains to that fight, veteran trainer Mark Ramsay said they were waiting for Beterbiev to get old, but he just gets better.
That's bullshit.
Dimitri Bivol was pursuing this fight 2 or 3 years ago, and I remember Bob Arum pouring cold water all over it, saying that Dimitri Bivol has no pizzazz, that he's boring.
It's not Dimitri's fault this fight took so long to make.
It's going to be a very important fight, Ramsay said in an exclusive interview for Boxing Scene. There is nothing personal here for Artur. He just wants to beat the guy in front of him, and at the end of the day, he just really wants to win. This is his main thing. He is just very competitive. He is always training and in the gym.
Politics held up the fight.
Dimitri has been with Matchroom for a very long time.
Yes.
And Artur has been with Top Rank for a very long time.
Yes.
Bob wasn't going to send Artur over to Matchroom.
And he poo-pooed all over the fight.
It's just a matter of fact. You can like who you like. You can like Dimitri to win. You can like Artur to win. You can like them both. But the fact of the matter is, Bob didn't want to make this thing.
Why?
He didn't want to just truck off his champion to the rival platform, but at the same time, to get Dimitri to come to them, it likely would have costed more than he was willing to pay.
Especially after Dimitri beat Canelo.
There hasn't really been any frustration, Ramsay added. We've just been waiting and waiting. They are hoping that one day Artur is going to get old, but he is just getting better and better. Now the time has come where a promoter has stepped forward. Artur will never wait for anyone. He will just do the fight we have to do. He doesn't really follow boxing that much. He didn't know who Callum Smith was before we faced him. He doesn't really care who he is fighting. He just wants to perform.
He didn't know who Callum Smith was.
The boxer that doesn't follow boxing? You know what? I can see that. They dedicate their entire lives to this sport. Artur Beterbiev has been a boxer as both an amateur and a professional for a very long time. So when it's time to wind down and watch some TV, I don't think he wants to immerse himself in more boxing.
He does enough of that at work.
He's 39 now. We see no slowing down in his metabolism in the gym. He is still training with the same good quality work with the squats, the bench press, and the sparring. We just don't see any slowing down with him. The Callum Smith fight went exactly as we planned. Ramsay's resume features former champions such as Jean Pascal, David Lemieux, Oscar Rivas. He also leads Eye of the Tiger's talented stable. Where does Artur Beterbiev rank on his extensive CV? Of course he is the best I've worked with, Ramsay said. People see a very powerful boxer in Artur, but this is not the main thing. He's very tricky and has good boxing skills. Of course, he's very strong, but his discipline puts him at number one for me.
It doesn't get said enough that Artur's not just a bruiser. He's not just a strong guy. He's actually a very good boxer. It's exactly like Mark said. He is tricky.
He's a pressure fighter, through and through, and he puts his opponents under a lot of pressure, but he's more adaptable than your average pressure fighter that usually only has one way of fighting a fight and one gear. Artur can be fleet of foot when the situation calls for it. He can box, which is what makes this fight so intriguing.
And hard to edge.
But the accusation that Mark is making, that the Bivol people were waiting for Artur to get old, that's bullshit.
It is.
As good as this fight is, one of the glaring issues it always had was its commercial value, that two Russian nationals, even two very good ones like Artur and Dimitri, that's only going to draw so many people and generate but so much money in America.
It's another reason why Bob wasn't in no hurry to make it.
The commercial value of the fight in America versus what the fighters want, what it's going to take to satisfy their financial demands to get them in the ring. Whether or not those things align, and at least in America they didn't.
But in Saudi, with their help, all things are possible.
This fight isn't happening on Top Rank's dime or Matchroom's dime. They're not the one taking the financial risk. It's the Saudis, which to them is no risk at all. Thus, the promoters and their respective broadcast partners get the content at almost no expense to them because it's the Saudis paying for it.
Normally, the money to make a fight comes from the promoter, and what the promoter gets from their broadcast partner, their annual budget. In this situation, it's not coming out of Top Rank's wallet, a Matchroom's wallet. It's coming out of the Saudis' wallet.
Well, why is it coming out of the Saudis' wallet? Why do they want it so bad?
Well, at least in part. Part of it is that Turki Al-Sheikh is a boxing fan, and he's using boxing to promote tourism in the region, bringing big-time boxing matches to that region of the world where before that didn't used to happen.
In a sentence, there are several involved parties with mutual interests that help to bridge the gap and make fights like this possible. It's a good time to be a boxing fan.
The fans win.